right. What's up, guys? Hopefully this is working. Let me see. Should be good. All right. Do a little QA today. See if anybody's on. It is on Monday, so maybe nobody's on. If you guys got questions about overages or surplus funds or about the course or the program, let me know. Happy to answer them here for the next few minutes. What's up, Pete? Is it working? Oh, it's on. You're from LinkedIn, so it must be working. Yeah, this is my second time using like StreamYard, so hopefully it works. Great question, Keisha. So I really want to get involved in the business, but I'm wondering how it works for non-judicial states. So yeah, there's two foreclosure processes. There's non-judicial, judicial. The only difference between the two is judicial means that it goes through a court process. There's a court case associated with the foreclosure. And so oftentimes the funds are held, within the court case. Non-judicial states are exactly what it sounds like. They are non-judicial, meaning there is no court case. It is foreclosure. The foreclosure is handled strictly by a law firm who represents the bank. That law firm is also known as a trustee or a referee. And so they handle the foreclosure completely independently of the court system. And so in non-judicial states, the funds are dispersed either directly by the law firm, or the law firm can elect to deposit the funds into the court system. And that's really the only difference, really. Non-judicial states can be challenging, though, because you don't really know if there's an overage. There's a lot of guessing that goes into the game because you're not sure exactly how much was owed. And so you have to rely a lot on the information the homeowner gives you, and you have to do a lot of estimating and guessing. And sometimes what looks like a good overage, you find out that there really isn't an overage. And so that can be one of the cons of working in non-judicial states. And that's pretty much it. I work both types. I've worked in judicial and non-judicial. I like to use attorneys on both. But it can be done. It's just a matter of where the fund's being held. That's different. And the amount of information that you can get. Non-judicial states can be more challenging than judicial states. So hopefully that helps answer the question a little bit. What are the pros? The pros are because of the challenges. I mean, it depends really. So let's take two states. Florida is a judicial state. The pros of Florida are it's very easy to get information. Florida has great access to court records, so you really can nail down what properties have overages and which ones don't, because you can look through the court records. And so that is a con. It can be easier, or a pro, excuse me. That is a pro, is it's easier to do your research. A con for a non-judicial or a pro, excuse me. So I just listed a pro for a judicial, right? It's easier to do research. A pro for a non-judicial state is because it is difficult to do the research, there can be less competition. So that's the flip side. So pro for judicial, easier to get information, easier to do research. Con for judicial, more competition. At least that is using Florida as an example. Another state that's non-judicial, for example, I don't know, Nevada, for example. Nevada is a non-judicial state. Not a lot of people working in Nevada for mortgage overages. Why? Because there's no court record. You have to do a lot of guessing. And so that's one of the pros of non-judicial. There's usually less people working there when it comes to mortgage overages. So, yeah. So someone asked, how much was my course? Yeah, guys, if you want to go to school.overagecourse.com, you can check out my course. I guess I could do a screen share too, if that's possible. Let's see if it is. Screen share. All right, hopefully you can see my screen. So yeah, guys, if you just, I'll put this link in the chat for you. School.overagecourse.com. So right now my course is $2,000. You can go through, you can check out the entire curriculum. You can see the testimonials, results people have gotten. And these are just a few of the many results that are available. Okay. So yeah, it's $2,000 right now, which I think is actually significantly underpriced when I start looking at the results that people have gotten. So you can do your due diligence there, scroll through all of this, see what people have to say, look and see what's included in the course. Okay. You can see exactly all the lessons that you're going to have access to, exactly what you're going to learn. Okay. How to create leads, how to conduct your research, how to skip trace. Okay. Scripts, how to overcome objections. Here's all the paperwork. Okay. How to use the paperwork, how to find attorneys. Here's some state specific modules, partnering, and then all the bonuses and stuff like that. So, and I'm always adding to this as well, guys. So this course is not just a kind of set it and forget it for me anyway. It's a program that I am constantly adding and adjusting as I get new information, because I am involved in the overage business currently. Okay, I'm actually doing deals. I don't teach from theory. I don't teach from what I learned from someone else. I teach from my own experience. So feel free to do your due diligence there. You can check out the guarantees we have, all that good stuff. Okay. So am I doing anything else for income, besides doing actual overage deals and then training people on how to do overages? No, I mean, I am involved. Well, that's not true. I am involved in some other things. Like right now, I'm doing some private lending on real estate deals. Okay. So I do that, but I wouldn't say that's income, because it is, but it just goes into my retirement account. So I do things outside of just overages. I've played around with a lot of stuff, but overages is my main focus. So doing deals with my students and teaching people, and yeah, that's what I do. That is my niche, so to speak. That's my job. When will Track Tool be ready? Good question. Should be ready by the end of this week, or excuse me, by the end of the month. If you have questions, reach out to Jeff Richmond. He's the guy who created Track Tool. So, and then when does that? So just to be clear, guys, with Track Tool and the CRM, that's not my software. I did not develop that or anything. That is the property of Jeff Richmond. And so, reach out to him. He's in the Facebook group. He's in the public Facebook group. Feel free to message him. He tells me it should be ready by, the end of the month. And that's also when the special is ending as well. So, yeah, Dominic, good question. You want to buy the course, but the right course. It just depends on, go with your gut. That's what I tell people. Obviously there's lots of courses out there. I'm not the only one. I've been through a lot of the courses that are on the market. And so ultimately what I tell people is, do your due diligence and go with who you feel is the right fit for you, where you think you'll get the most value, and where you'll learn the most, and where you think you'll have the greatest chance of success. So, take your time, do your research, see what other people have to say about the program, and then just make a decision. So that's what I can recommend as far as what course is the right one for you. Because yeah, my course is probably not the best fit for some people. If someone is expecting like to have their hand held and like, if they are expecting like one-on-one access on a daily basis, I wouldn't recommend my course, So you just got to be aware. Go with your gut is the bottom line. So yeah, if you guys need like one-on-one, I wouldn't be the right fit for you. I do group coaching. Okay. So I'll coach people in small groups, but one-on-one is not, it's possible to do one-on-one, but I don't like to do one-on-one because it's not the best use of time. And it would be very, very expensive if I did one-on-one. So I like to do group because when you're in a smaller group, not only do you have the benefit of reaching more people, but other members in the group can also teach and share their experience. And that's why I like to do group coaching, because I learn a lot from my students as well. I've got students that are in the trenches and I learn a lot from them. And it's a more, reciprocal relationship. So. Yes, there are 3 installments for the course. So there's 1 month plan, 2 month, and 3 months. And that's a good question. So the question is, say I pursued overages full time, what would an average gross profit for a year typically look like? It's a really good question. It depends on how dedicated you are, how much time you're putting into it on a daily basis. So I really can't tell you exactly what you would earn, because I don't know your work ethic. I don't know how much time you're going to dedicate. I can only share like what I've done and what my students have shared with me as well. Okay. So, here is Matt, for example. He started this business almost 2 years ago. His biggest check so far was 168. He's doing 6 figures right now, low 6 figures. Here's Walter. So you can see his goal was to make around 100K, but he's on schedule to make around 200 to 250. And that's from this year in 2022. Okay. Now here's Ernest. Ernest does it part-time. He made an extra 50K in 2021 doing it part-time. So it really just depends. I've got students that are doing this on a part-time basis, making, an extra 5 figures a year doing it part-time. I have other students who, they do this more on a full-time basis. Like here's Jay here. Well, he's doing it about 30 hours a week. And here's 4 checks. I'm totaling almost 100K. So this is an older actually testimonial from 2020. As far as like me, I can tell you that I do low 6 figures. So 200 to 300K a year from my overage business. The biggest thing too, guys, is this business takes time to ramp up. It's very tough in the beginning. So like, here's what I would recommend for anyone looking to get involved is if you can't dedicate if you're not willing to dedicate a minimum of 6 months, preferably a year to the process, I would not recommend anyone to get into overages. Why? There is a significant ramp up time to when you start seeing checks in. So let me share with you, like when I transitioned from my job as a corrections officer into doing this full time, like here was the timeline. I left my job in 2017, September of 2017. I did not get a check, like an actual payout from an overage deal, until January of 2018. So that's September, October, November, December, January. 5 months before I saw my first check when I transitioned full-time. So that's why, and that's another thing. I would not recommend anyone quit their full-time job and go into this until you've done some deals. Now, I had done some deals, so, but that's the thing, and that's pretty standard. Like, you probably won't see any results for several months, because here's the thing, guys. When you file that claim, you're going to be waiting 3 to 4 months before you get that check, sometimes more, depending where you're working. And that's just the game. That's why this business is so hard, is you have to have an exceptional amount of patience in order to be successful at this game. Now, going back to the story of, okay, when I transitioned from my job to doing this full time, by the end of 2018, I had made over 100K. 75% of that 100K came in the last quarter of 2018. But because of all the work I'd done in 2018, the following year, I went up, I think it was 300K gross or something like that. Let me double check here. So 2019 was a really good year where I did like 300K. And then I've kind of stayed in that realm between 2 and 3 since then. So I don't know if that, I mean, again, I can only share what I've done, guys. Like, I don't know what you're going to make. You may make nothing, and it's very possible. So, and that's real for any business. There's lots of businesses that work. There's lots of people that start businesses and then go out of business, or they lose money. All I know is that it is very possible to do 6 figures in this business, because I've done it, and many of my students have done it. But understand it's going to take a lot of work. And most importantly, guys, consistent work. Consistency is the key. If you can consistently do 1 to 2 hours a day, or 3 or 4, or whatever, that is key. The person that can do 1 hour a day consistently is going to beat out the person that does 5 hours once a week on, say, a Saturday. Okay? Because the actions that you take, okay, you know, the making the calls, sending letters, sending emails, doing your stuff, if you do that consistently over time, those actions start to compound, and that's what yields the results in this business. Okay. And that's the second thing. It's very tough, this business, because you have to have a lot of faith, because you have to have faith that the calls that you make today, the messages that you make today, the letters you send out are going to yield a return, because it's not instantaneous. It's very rare for you to call someone up and have a signed contract the same day. Very rare. So patience and faith are paramount to success in this business. So, but, you know, it just depends, you know, it just depends. Like, here's the thing here, and I'll move on to another question. What do you want? Like, what is it that you want? What are you looking for? Because because my situation was, I worked 12-hour graveyard shifts for $16 an hour. Okay. If you do the math on that after taxes, I started out, and this was what, almost 8 years now. That's crazy. So 8 years ago, I was making $16 an hour. That's like, you do the math after taxes, that's like 30 something a year, 30 grand a year. Sometimes I'd get 40 grand. I think my best year at the Department of Corrections was $49,000. So like I kind of started close to the bottom, not the very bottom, but pretty damn close. And so I was basically willing to do anything to get out of there. If someone's making like 100 grand right now, it'd be tough, right? You're in a tougher position because are you going to leave that to go do something unknown? And I wouldn't recommend anyone do that. If you have a good job now, just do this part-time. Keep your good job and use this as a side hustle to stack cash, pay for some luxuries or, some extra vacation or whatever. You don't have to go full time in this to see results and to see success. It just depends on what do you want. Now, let's say you work a job, maybe you make 60K a year or 80K a year. It's not six figures, but it's pretty good income, right? But how much are you working? Are you working 50, 60 hours a week to do that? And so if you could work 40 or 30 hours a week to get that same 60 or 80K or whatever it is for you, then would that be worth exploring? And that's a question that you have to answer. So it just depends. Like what you have to ask yourself, guys, is learn about the industry, learn about the strategy of overages, learn the basic steps. Here they are. I will tell you right now. There are 5 steps. Create leads, conduct research, contact your leads, contract, submit your claim, and profit. Okay? Those are the 5 steps. And so the question you have to ask is, do you see that this strategy is a way for you to accomplish your goal, whatever your goal is, whether it's an income goal, whether it's to replace a job or an existing business? You have to ask yourself, is this a viable strategy to accomplish my goal? If it is, then it's worth looking into more. If it's not, then you look for something else. Okay. And finally, do the math. Do the math on, and when I say do the math, this is what I mean. Do the math on what would happen if you continue to stay and continue to do what you're already doing. Okay. Why is this important? This was the nail in the coffin for me and what finally opened my eyes to the fact that I had to leave my job as a corrections officer because I did the math. And what I did is they had these little retirement calculators. So you could put in okay, if you reach a certain income and you retire at that level, here's what you would get as a pension on a monthly basis. And I put in the numbers and it was if I reached the top without going into management, if I reached the top of the chain as a corrections officer or probation officer or whatever, I think my pension would be 4 or 5K a month. And I was but that's 25 years from now. Okay. And I'm okay, there's no way that's going to be enough. There's no way. The math does not work. That will not give me what I want. Therefore, I have to leave. And so you have to do the same in your life, is do the math. Is what you're doing currently going to get you where you want to go? If the answer is no, then you have to find something else. Or you have to accept that if you're not willing to do something else or something more, then you have to accept the reality of your situation. And I wasn't willing to accept it. I was no, I got to leave. Okay. So do the math. Make sure that, and then could this path help you reach your goal? Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. This is not oversaturated with individuals doing this? Question mark. Define saturation. What do you define as saturated? Is there competition in this business? 100% absolutely yes. Is it saturated? What is the definition of saturation? I guess my perspective is a little bit different. So there was a time where I was a licensed real estate agent, and before I started doing overages, I was involved in something called wholesaling real estate. So my perspective is this: if I want to be a real estate agent in my state, I get to compete with over 1,000 real estate agents in my area. If I want to wholesale real estate, I get to compete with maybe 100, 150 real estate investors in my area. If I want to do overages, then I'm going to compete with maybe 10 to 20. So it depends on what your definition of saturation is. There is competition, absolutely yes. And competition in any business is a sign that it's an actual viable business. If you find something that doesn't have competition, then you should ask, well, why aren't there more people doing it? Does it not work? But if multiple people are doing something, then that means it works for them. Okay. So, I mean, here's the bottom line, guys. There's competition in this business, but compared to what? I mean, I'd rather compete with 20 than 1,000, but that's just me. What would you prefer? If you don't like to compete at all, I wouldn't start a business. I just wouldn't. Competition is what drives progress, and competition is a good thing. It's a great thing to have. Good question, Darren. How often? So question is, how often are the owners asking for updates? Or you follow up after submitting a claim. So we try to give, I mean, this is a good question because sometimes you'll go like a month or two without hearing anything. So you have to set expectations up front, let them know how long the process is going to take. So we try to say, hey, it's going to be at least 3 to 4 months, possibly more. Okay. You want to under promise, over deliver is what you want to do. Okay. Don't be telling people that you're going to get their money in 30 days because that is an unrealistic expectation. And if you set that up front and you don't meet it, now you look like a fool to your client. So don't do that. Be honest, transparent, and let them know it's going to take a while. And then let them know, however many times you want to give them an update. If you want to give them a weekly update, great. Sometimes that update will be, hey, we're still moving forward, but there's nothing new to report. And that's your update. So we'll usually update them, every 2 weeks or so, maybe even just once a month. But we try to set that proper expectation up front that it's going to take a while. Okay. All right, guys, we'll do one more question. Then I gotta head out. Why is it difficult finding or retaining competent overage attorneys? Great question. Because this is such a small niche in the legal world. Most attorneys, like your regular attorney that is like just specializes in real estate closings and something like that, most attorneys aren't even aware about overages or surplus funds. So there's that. Just the fact that most attorneys don't even know about the niche is a huge challenge. And then when you narrow it down, if let's say you got bankruptcy attorneys or foreclosure attorneys, some of those attorneys, they're usually not working on behalf of individuals. They are working on behalf of banks, right? Like if you have a foreclosure attorney, he or she is probably working on behalf of a bank. They're probably not representing homeowners. That's just how it is. And so those two factors, number one, the fact that the niche is so small, most attorneys aren't even aware about overages. And number two, that, most attorneys are working for the banks. That's kind of why it's difficult to find attorneys. There are very few that have focused in and have specialized in this niche. So that's that's a challenge for sure about this business, is finding a good attorney. 100%. So, all right, guys. Well, I got to head out. Alex, how difficult is it in Texas? You definitely need an attorney in Texas. Don't even try doing anything in Texas without an attorney. That's the bottom line. So Texas is a non-judicial state for Mo's. So we talked about this earlier in the call. You're limited on as far as your research in Texas because there's no court records. You do have court records for tows, though, which is nice. Don't use assignments in Texas. That's where you start seeing a fee limitation on what you can charge. So be aware of the laws in Texas. And again, that's coming back to make sure you use an attorney as well, so that that everything is squared away, good to go. I like Texas. It's probably not the best beginner state, but it can be done. I've got students that have done deals in Texas, first time deals in Texas. So there's a lot of nice thing about Texas. There's quite a bit of foreclosure and tax sale activity. And it's pretty easy to track that activity in Texas because they do everything on the first Tuesday of every month. So that makes it nice. So, all right. Awesome, guys. Appreciate you hopping on. And we will talk to you later. I agree. Yes. Good comment. Yep. It is hard work for sure. So, although you do not always have to put money up front. That's a common misconception. So, guys, let me tackle that. I have to go, but I preach about using attorneys, right? Understand this. You don't always need an attorney. You don't always need to pay an attorney up front. Attorneys can also work on contingency, meaning they will get paid when you get paid. The flip side of that is you're going to pay more in the long run because they're going to take a percentage of the deal versus just maybe a flat rate or an hourly fee. Okay. Flat rate, hourly, is usually less expensive than contingency. But if you have to do contingency to get the deal done, then get it done, or partner with someone that has an attorney relationship and do it that way. Okay. So that's one of the benefits that I try to help my students out is, hey, you don't have money for an attorney? No problem. I'll pay for the attorney and we can split the deal. So, all right, guys, have a great day. Have a wonderful week. And appreciate y'all jumping on. Hopefully that was informative. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.